Hey guys, it's Elise Quevedo here, and today I'm with Joe Peng, Head of APAC Digital Innovation Group and Regional Managing Director at BCW Global, one of the world's largest full-service global communications and public relation agencies. Hey Joe, how are you today?
Hey Liz, I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know how busy you are, but recently you have been sharing some really interesting articles on communications. So I have a few questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you for having me.
Okay, excellent. So my first question for you, Joe. We all know that the world has come to a standstill when it comes to face-to-face events. And as you said, we are seeing a huge shift in marketing and communication efforts to promote virtual events, webinars, etc. So can you please tell us how companies can adapt their strategies now?
Sure. Virtual events. We saw a lot of virtual events. I think that is part of the digitalization. And this is not new. It is just because of the crisis is accelerating the already growing trends towards digitalization. So digitalization for me is a mission critical priority for modern business today. And the COVID-19 has further illuminated a new hierarchy of survival needs. So I think depending on the business nature, here are a couple of different considerations for digitalization, especially from communications or marketing perspectives. First, companies can leverage data and insights to identify the most significant and lasting needs in the marketplace, because you're gonna see a lot of changes of people's behavior and their needs during and after the pandemic. And this includes a re-evaluation of brand positioning, value proposition, or even portfolio. So you can use this new types of portfolio to accelerate growth in the new landscape. I think another consideration can be the acceleration and the innovation of customer experience, because everyone is on the line. And the mobile e-commerce first business should be really important for everyone to consider. So many companies need to address the new needs and the priorities in digital content, digital services, digital commerce. At the same time, reevaluate customer experience for greater personalized value and responsiveness. So to this point, as you mentioned, virtual event, I think this is one of the booming platform among those digital formats. Besides virtual events, we actually observe a lot of different formats: live streaming, video content, chat on the digital platform. So those are great ways for companies to consider to interact with their customers who are staying at home. One another perspective is moving those marketing activities to an online platform. It will deliver unprecedented opportunities for companies. And if done carefully, it has the potential to achieve higher marketing effectiveness. It can break organizational silos by putting sales, marketing, communications, and even channel marketing on the same platform to face your customers, because we have a lot of different types of clients. We know sometimes they also struggling with each other internally because they have so many different types of touch points. But now, everyone is on the same platform. So I guess this is an opportunity for them to collaborate with each other. And secondly, with those online platforms, it is important for companies, organizations to remember you can get data. So with those opt-in data, companies can design hyper-personalized marketing campaign that take into consideration like contextual relevance, time, interest for each customer. Be ready to meet demands at key points along the customer journey. How to do it? There are MarTech automation out there in the market. Embrace them, study them. So I believe those platforms, those technologies will provide the support for companies to generate that personalized creation and distribution of content in real time to enable personalization at scale. So to summarize, identify opportunity to accelerate digital innovation and leverage emerging technologies for competitive edge. Digital should not be viewed as just a means for continuity, but as a means to ensure future business survival, as well as a hedge against future crisis.
Wow, Joe, this was just the first question, and you've given so many golden nuggets. This is unbelievable, guys. Please pay attention to this video because Joe's knowledge is beyond when it comes to PR and communications. Now, you've just mentioned collaborations and extending more to put yourself out there. Now, Joe, if you are a big company, it is understandable that the budgets are going to be larger. You mentioned you're working with different companies, but smaller companies now are struggling when it comes to PR and marketing. So what advice do you have for those who have fear about still setting a budget aside for PR and marketing? And if they have to cut their budget because of what's going on right now, where should their money be better spent?
I guess, first of all, take the opportunity to get creative. I think storytelling is still important. It will play an even bigger role to achieve that tipping point effect, right? So I think for smaller brands or even individuals, it's important to purposefully redirect efforts into digital channels, which would open up new opportunities and will be more cost efficient. The examples that we mentioned earlier on, live streaming, chat on the digital or social platform or social e-commerce, I think they can be utilized in a cost-efficient way for smaller brands. Another example, which is from China, I think it is a timing for every companies, bigger or smaller, especially smaller brands, to look at, watch out those trends. There's one called private traffic. I think it's not a new phenomena, but might not be familiar for everyone. It is a trend or trending term in China, especially recently, because many brands find it's quite cost efficient. It helps them to improve brand image and even conversion rate, as well as getting closer to customers. So private traffic is a marketing method where companies, they gather their customers, existing customers, potential customers on a single platform. It can be a third-party platform. However, they have a certain level of control of that group. So they can communicate with this group of target audiences with zero cost because they have that community. So brands can systematically reach users at little cost, and the COVID-19 gave private traffic a huge stage to outshine other types of approaches. An example in this form is, we call it a shopping assistant on chat group, similar to how shop assistants provide service for customers in a store. Customers can add shop assistants WeChat account in China, and they can stay after they finish their purchase. It is usually in the WeChat group. So this sales manager can reach out to that group of customers every time. First of all, they provide some after sales services to make people trust in this guy. But gradually, they provide more information like new arrivals and even personalized services. So this is a good approach for smaller brands to reach out to their audience with zero cost and significantly help this brand to continue the marketing and the sales efforts during the pandemic. So I think this is just one example. There are a lot of new phenomena trends that the smaller brands can watch out and adapt themselves into those new ways of marketing communications. And don't forget brand building efforts during this period of time.
Wow, Joe, this is actually why sometimes I get blown away when I talk to you. I think back on when we sat down in Brussels, literally a year ago, and, I was so impacted by your knowledge. And now, you come from this PR and communications background, and a lot of people would just give you tips on, oh, spend more money, this is how much money you have to spend, or, trying to get more things. And you've just given tips on $0. This is something that I've always told people. If you have a budget, of course you can do things. That is like without a question. But hardly anyone wants to tell you what you can do for free. Like they're a little bit scared of doing that. And you've just given some amazing advice here. So I want to thank you for your honesty, because this is definitely really good. So now, Joe, let's talk about technology, because you've just been speaking about WeChat, all these platforms. And the latest article that I actually read from you was about the talent of the communications industry in an AI era. So, Joe, how has artificial intelligence changed the way that PR communications work?
I think it's a gradual process. The traditional PR and communication work has always been deeply rooted in labor and talent models. In short, people like me, our brains. So from the initial strategy or tactic program development to final output, our profession has been dependent for the most part of human mind. But with AI coming into the picture, we are looking at ways to keep up with consumer expectation, say a more personalized communication. Or we know that we can use tools to predict which leads will convert at a higher rate for brands. So things could look really different in the near future. As an agency, we understood the potential impact of AI and communications relatively early on. We see the application of AI and data science in three main areas that can help PR and communications and also help our clients. So first one, artificial intelligence to enhance data analytics and insights. AI and machine learning has allowed our analytics team to process unstructured data across social web from millions of people and billions of posts, grouping them into distinct personas, motivators, or emotional attributes. Those are important components in our strategy sessions when we develop programs for our clients. So the ability to run AI for advanced classification of data fuels everything from our targeting strategy to our content marketing campaigns. In addition, we see a lot of potential using AI to analyze image to unlock deeper insights. And we are already using AI-enabled data-driven approach to do influencer marketing for some, especially consumer brands. And secondly, I think it's more of using AI to enhance customer experience and engagement. I think chatbot, virtual assistants are good examples of using AI to create conversational experience with our customers. And we are also looking into AI-powered reply-based social engagement. And the third part, I think this is where we as agency put a lot of efforts on to study its AI versus content. Mass personalization and dynamically generated creative content provides us with a huge opportunity. So we mentioned this point when we discussed COVID-19 earlier on. Marketing automation is making it possible to generate personalization at scale, while AI and the sophisticated application of data is part of it. In addition, we are also see more cases of using AI and the machine learning to predict communications results and outcome. So one of our clients in BCW, because we sometimes help our client to handle crisis. So we were helping them mitigate the impact of the brand's negative, conversation online. So to help this client, our team identified a combination of a monitoring social listening tool and a social media analytic tool to see which newly published stories were predicted to drive buzz across social media. And then we find stories that we knew might perform the best in the coming hours, in the 24 hours. So this approach enabled us to add an innovative layer of data interpretation to proactively alert or report to the client during the crisis management. So that's some of the areas that I see AI will change the way how PR and communications work.
That is, I love the example that you've just used, Joe, in regards, at BCW Global, for example, how you're mixing the human factor with artificial intelligence. There is a lot of talk on people sometimes about, oh, the robots and artificial intelligence is going to take up my work. But people always forget that behind any technology, there is still a human being. And as always, emerging technologies, are about adaptability, which is, making them work with what we do. Which brings me to this next question, which is talking about technology and artificial intelligence. There is this general question that I ask people often and that I get asked as well, which is, why should we trust emerging technologies, Joe?
I know you ask this question a lot. I would ask, why shouldn't we? Why should we trust emerging technologies? I'm a believer of technology. That's why I'm so passionate about integrating technologies into our communication solutions for our clients. I think as human beings, we have a long history of resisting technological advances. So when I remember one really interesting research showed that resistance to new technologies is heightened when the public perceives that the benefits of the new technologies will only accrue to a small section of our people or society. So this is why, right, technology promoted by large corporations often face stiff opposition from the public, especially when people feel a threat such as losing job, as you mentioned, if AI technology is widely adapted. But to put that aside, we still have work to do to make emerging technologies trustworthy. Taking AI as an example, security concerns were omnipresent. There is a vigorous debate on ethical issues surrounding AI. Examples are the biases within AI tools. And people are talking about, weaponization of AI. So there are concerns out there. So I would rephrase your question again, Elise. How should we make people trust emerging technologies? I think a cornerstone of Ask AI, if we are talking about this specific area, should be transparency and accountability in terms of how we are using it. For companies in this area, we mentioned that the big companies might get people opposition, right? I think a strong sense of social responsibility may be an important consideration for them, because we need to know that they are being socially responsible with the use of the technology.
Wow, Joe, you see, this is why I love not only to ask this question, but because everybody has a different perspective, but because you think one step ahead. So thank you so much, like you said, for the transparency and for the honesty in your questions. And one more thing that we actually share in common is that we both talk about how B2B influencer marketing must go beyond the numbers. You've just mentioned the chatbots, you've just mentioned artificial intelligence. Brands are now working more and more, as you know, with business global thought leaders. So can you share your views on this, and also what is the value for brands working with B2B influencers or global thought leaders as we call it?
I think generally speaking, the value for brands, companies, corporations to work with B2B influencers include establishing thought leadership, providing informative and credible content, building trust through relevance and authority. So as a matter of fact, B2B influencer marketing can play roles in the whole B2B customer journey or funnel, being awareness or advocacy. So there is great value lying in each stage. Taking thought leadership as an example, never underestimate the impact of thought leadership in the B2B buying funnel. Aside from strengthening a company's reputation, strong thought leadership can positively impact decision makers' buying decision. B2B influencer marketing is not about using an influencer's audience to broadcast your brand message, right? It should and must go deeper. Real value needs to be delivered to both influencers and their audiences beyond just numbers. And relationship with diversified of B2B influencer should be maintained to bring long-term benefits to brand. And I mean, for me, myself, someone working in the B2B influencer programs for our clients, I just love it. I'm proud of it because it is not like those fancy B2C influencer marketing. We always talk to, mega influencers or celebrities. I like the process of exchanging ideas with B2B influencers. And I guess this is how I can, always reach out to Elise for advice, and we can keep our conversation on various topics going on.
Correct, and you touch on a perfect point that I was going to mention, which is the difference from B2C to B2B influencers. And I think maybe we should do a different video just to talk about the difference about influencers, because there is not just one type. And again, in business, we're called KOLs, key opinion leaders, or global thought leaders, or B2B influencers. Many people in business, for example, hate the word influencer because they think you're an Instagrammer or a YouTuber. And the value, like you said, is deeper than what a normal customer brand goes. For example, a couple of days ago, I got an email from a brand. It had nothing to do with what I do. And it was like, hey, we'll send you this stuff for free if you can post a picture. And I was thinking, you see, a brand needs to understand what the value and who you want to work with, because B2B, let's talk about the B2B influencers, should stick to their knowledge, to their interests, and only collaborate with brands and individuals that actually you fit together, not just because you're offered something or you're given money, you should do it. If it doesn't relate to your brand or the value that your potential audience might have, why would you do it? So I think this is, for example, where you, Joe, come in, or people like, companies like BCW Global as an example, where you guys do your homework to see who is each individual. It's not just, hey, let's search for algorithms. These guys have great followers. These guys engage great. But beyond that, what are these people interested in? Who are their audiences? So there is so much beyond just, hey, I'm just going to pay someone to do a video with me, or I'm just going to pay someone to mention my brand or invite them to an event. I believe there is a huge improvement in the B2B influencer community, especially when it comes to brands, and definitely people like yourself, Joe, or any other firm out there that deals with influencers are a key strategic part to be able to also educate the brands to say, just because they're a celebrity doesn't mean you may get results. You may get more results from a B2B influencer sometimes. It all depends on the campaign and what the message is all about. So yeah, I think we need to stop on this question right now. Otherwise, we could talk for another 2 hours.
Yeah,
on this
absolutely.
topic.
Yeah,
So
we should do it next time. We have a lot to discuss.
Exactly. So then I wish I could talk to you forever, Joe, because you're so insightful. So let me ask you one last question for today, which is, what would be your one key takeaway for people to remember when it comes to PR and communications for 2020?
I guess I talked too much today. It is not easy to summarize, but I would say rethink and innovate your PR and the communications in a more digital and the technology-enabled world, especially in the current global health crisis.
Wow, that is a great summary, Joe. So there you guys have it. This is Elise Quevedo in conversation with Joe Peng. There will be links below to some of Joe's articles, which I love. Thanks again for joining me, Joe, and see you again next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.